The past few weeks I've been using nothing but the Hiboy S2 Pro to commute and ride recreationally in an attempt to put as many miles on the scooter as possible. I wanted to see what problems arose and how the S2 Pro took the abuse of daily use. I also wanted to see if this would be a practical scooter to use for longer commutes or hilly rides, or in places where the roads or sidewalks were bumpy and rough. For this review, I will be first talking about the things I like about the S2 Pro and in what situation this scooter shines. And then I will talk about the things I don't like and improvements I want to see. This scooter retails at $549.99 US, putting it towards the entry-level category of scooters price-wise. That being said, there's a lot to like about this scooter, and a lot of features on this scooter that are normally found in more expensive scooters. As I mentioned in my first impressions video of this scooter, the stability of this scooter out of the box was quite impressive, and my opinion on that has not changed. Even with daily commutes, long rides for fun, and regular folding and unfolding, the scooter hasn't felt any less stable. No bolts have come loose, and the stem is still as rigid as it was from the beginning. The fact that I don't have to worry about regular maintenance and adjustments on the scooter the same way I have to for other scooters I have, makes it an easy go-to for daily use. Let's talk about some of the design choices I really like on the S2 Pro. The stem clamp locks in super solidly, but still allows the scooter to be folded and unfolded quickly. The clamp leaves no room for play in the stem, adding to that feeling of stability while riding. The scooter folds down and clips together via this spring-loaded plastic loop and hooks by the handlebars. This scooter is easy to fold and clip, and quickly unclips and unfolds. The plastic loop portion folds back into the fender and out of the way, and the hook up top can be used to carry a bag while riding. The honeycomb tires are another great addition to this scooter. I stand by what I said in the first impressions video. Not worrying about flats adds to the appeal of this scooter as a reliable commuter. I've had no issues with traction like some solid tires do. These honeycomb tires are perfect for this scooter, and I wouldn't want any other tire on here. The rear fender is thick and solid and is also metal reinforced, meaning that breaking off this fender accidentally is near impossible. You won't have to worry about it flexing up and down or back and forth while riding or going over potholes and bumps. While I usually ride with my back foot at an angle, completely on the deck of the scooter, on longer rides I rest my heel on the fender and have had no issues with it breaking or even bending or flexing at all. You can really put a lot of weight on this fender with no issues. For those of you saying that you aren't supposed to rest your foot on the fender, my answer is just don't do it if you're worried about it. I'm just telling you my experience with the scooter. The two options for braking is one of my favorite setups of any scooter I've ridden. The left-hand electronic brake is perfect by itself at higher speeds, and having the additional disc brake on the right hand makes quickly braking super easy. Having exceptional braking power means a safer ride and can allow you to react appropriately to potentially dangerous situations. Something that I never hear covered in scooter reviews is head angle. And by that I mean how tilted back the stem is. A slacker or less steep head angle allows the scooter to be more stable at higher speeds. The S2 Pro has a much slacker head angle than other scooters I own and scooters I have ridden, which again adds to the stability of this scooter. It's a small detail, but something that I can appreciate. The mat on the deck of this scooter has a nice grippy texture and a pattern of raised bumps to keep your feet nice and planted. The mat is secured nicely to the deck of the scooter, so you won't have to worry about it peeling off after a week, like some other scooters I've had. Cough cough, the Mantis. The charging port for the S2 Pro is located in a unique spot, but I really like it. With the port up at the top of the stem, you avoid getting water and dust in the port when you accidentally forget to put the port plug back. The higher port location makes plugging and unplugging the charger easier. No more getting on your hands and knees to charge the scooter. If you need the charging port closer to the ground, you can fold up the scooter and still have easy access to the port. The unconventional location for the charging port was a good call from Hiboy, and I'm a fan of it. Let's move on to the performance of the S2 Pro and what I liked in that category. The 20 mile per hour advertised top speed is exceptional for this price range, and I was very happy with the acceleration and speed of the scooter overall, especially for the price. The scooter comes with a single 350 watt motor in the front, but it seems to perform better than what would be expected out of that wattage of motor. I was even able to hit a whopping 26 miles per hour while riding downhill while recording my range test. Speaking of range, this scooter really exceeded my expectations in that department. The scooter advertises a 25 to 30 miles max range. You should always take the advertised range of a scooter with a grain of salt. The advertised range of a scooter is typically based on the scooter running in only eco mode, which almost no one actually does, and even in those cases, they still often overestimate the range. Riding in sports mode and making no effort to conserve battery, I was able to do just under 20 miles of range with the S2 Pro, which I was really impressed with. Most scooters do less than half of the advertised range while in sports mode, and this scooter almost met the advertised range in sports mode. While this is only a single motor scooter, the hill climbing ability of the S2 Pro is decent. On the steepest hill of my daily commute, I am still able to maintain a speed of 12 to 14 miles per hour. I will say that if you are regularly riding on abnormally steep hills, to go with a dual motor scooter. Almost no single motor scooter will give you the power you need to maintain a decent speed on hills. Also, it is possible to overheat and damage the motor on single motor scooters if it's forced to pull you up the hill for too long. So keep that in mind if you are considering this scooter. Now let's take a look at some of the things I dislike about this scooter. Let me preface this by saying that I genuinely could not find anything I absolutely hated about this scooter. Most of my complaints about the scooter are issues that a lot of scooters in this price range have, or personal gripes that I have with electric scooters in general. I'll start with something that isn't negative about the scooter, but more of a disappointment. That would be the rear suspension that the S2 Pro has. Looking at the suspension from the side and bottom, it seems fairly impressive for a scooter in this price range. However, I notice almost no difference in ride quality between this scooter and other scooters with no rear suspension. The suspension on this scooter is quite stiff and has minimal travel. The other issue is that the front wheel hits bumps in the road first, and with there being no front suspension on this scooter, the bumps are noticeable and quite rough. The fact that the rear suspension absorbs some of the impact of a bump makes little difference when you are feeling the full effects of the bump in the front wheel every time. I appreciate what Hiboy was trying to do, but overall, the rear suspension is quite underwhelming. Perhaps those who choose to ride with the seat installed would notice more of a difference. The majority of things I don't like have to do with the handlebar and cockpit section of the scooter. These problems are not unique to this scooter, but this design seems to be very common among the most popular entry-level scooters. First off, the handlebar width is just way too narrow. Every time I ride this scooter, I feel like my hands are almost touching. It's almost comical how unnatural this width is. Any narrower and my elbows would have to dig into my sides to grab the handlebar grips. Handlebars that extended an additional 1 to 2 inches out in each direction would make a world of difference for comfort and stability. If I could change a single thing on this scooter, it would be that. I know much of the reasoning behind the narrow handlebars is to maximize portability and storability, but I have never had issues with the width of my handlebars on, say, my Mantis, and I regularly fit that scooter in the trunk of a VW Jetta. Just give us a couple extra inches on the handlebars, and I would be so happy. Wider handlebars would also solve my second gripe with this scooter, a lack of extra handlebar space. I said in my first impressions video that you could fit one accessory on the left side of the bars and one more on the right, but in that video I failed to notice that the electronic line from the brake routes into the scooter right in the middle of the open section of handlebar, making it useless for another accessory to be mounted. If you are planning on riding this scooter at night at all, the extra headlight is a must, because the included headlight is not nearly bright enough by itself to facilitate safe night riding. This means that there is no extra room on the handlebars to place a phone mount or horn or turn signal controller or any other accessory. The natural solution is a handlebar extender, but avoiding having to spend the extra money on a handlebar extender would be ideal. Like I said, wider handlebars could solve this issue. Staying on the topic of handlebars, the grips on this scooter are cheap and plasticky, and they get slick quite easily with any amount of moisture. They also rotate around on the handlebars, which is one of my pet peeves. I'm always intrigued by the decision to install such mediocre grips on scooters. Even many higher end scooters come with disappointing grips. I think locking handlebar grips should be the default for all electric scooters to help prevent grip rotation. There's no excuse to not have locking grips as the default even on entry-level scooters because they're so cheap and accessible. The good news is that locking grips are cheap and accessible, so grabbing a pair yourself off Amazon for $5 or $10 is no big issue. The pair I installed here were $7, and I can vouch that they're great grips for the money. You can go for something more expensive but still extremely affordable, like these $20 race face half Nelsons that I have on my Mantis right now. My last minor complaint is my dislike of thumb throttles. I do acknowledge that I'm in the minority on this. Many of you have probably seen my video on this topic. I won't say much more than just that thumb throttles give me hand cramps, but the scooter does have a lighter throttle than others, and the cruise control feature helps mitigate fatigue on long rides. Now don't get it twisted, all these complaints were not to say that this scooter is bad, and in fact most, if not all of these complaints, were things that are to be expected from any scooter in this price range. Nevertheless, as always, I want to give you guys my true opinion on the scooter and include every significant detail I can think of so you know as much as possible about the scooter before deciding to buy. Overall, my expectations of this scooter were completely exceeded in every category, and this is a highly recommended scooter from me, especially for those looking for their first scooter that won't break the bank, or for those looking for a reliable, affordable commuter. You can buy one from the link down in the description. Thanks for watching guys, and I'll see you in the next video.